It's just Bruce, he don't bite. Hello?
Hey folks, welcome back. Bruce coming at you again. I have been dying to do a video all day, but I couldn't think of a topic. So the topic tonight is, how has the human race become so lazy and rude? Kind of, no, not clickbait. We're actually going to talk about what I think about that. But what made me think of it today was, it's Memorial Day, so happy Memorial Day. I hope you paid your respect to the veterans and the people that deserved it. We didn't have anybody over today. The family is all split up, so no one wanted to come over for a barbecue. I still cooked out. Made my wife some barbecue chicken and hot dogs and hamburgers and stuff like that, and the kids didn't show up, so I'm a little bummed out about that. So I decided to putt around in the yard before it started raining, and I got thirsty. I'm like, the hell with this. I turned on the hose, and I drank out of the hose. And drink out of the hose, just, I do it all the time anyway, but today I started thinking about it, and I'm like, we used to do this all the time. Why is this such a big deal now with younger people? It's water, comes right from the house. It's never made me sick. It's never made anybody I know sick. We all grew up okay without brain damage. Well, some of us. But yeah, it got me thinking, like, how the younger people, the younger generations and stuff like that are just so pretentious now and so lazy, and then the rude people too we're going to get into. I mean, that's basically stuff we didn't have when we were kids, and stuff they have now that basically made them lazy. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Also, my wife bought me a new shirt. What's it say? Christian, white, straight, unwoke, unvaxxed, gun over, meat eater, and male. How else can I piss you off today? It's one of those things you're going to love it or you're going to hate it. I am a giant smart ass most of the time, and I just think it's funny. And if you can't take a joke for a joke, then I feel bad for you. All right, here's what I think has been the downfall of the human race, basically. Why people are so lazy now. It all started with cell phones. You know, when we were younger, if somebody called you and you weren't home, well, they had to wait till later to call you. They had to either call back or leave a message on the answer machine. You'd answer it when you felt like it. Nowadays, everybody's glued to their phones. They're all like this all the time. I remember back when I was single before I met my wife now, and I dated, every girl I'd go out on a first date, they're always sitting there, busy on their phone. I'm like, are we on a date, or what are we doing? And, hi, I'm over here, because I was raised, and I believe this, to give a lady your undivided attention when you go out on a date. You don't sit there on your phone the whole time, and that's all they do now. Everybody's zombies are walking around with their phones. Yes, I use my phone a lot. It's always with me, but I'm not a zombie about it. If I'm talking to someone face to face, I'm talking to somebody. It basically, in my mind, I'm glad I'm not single, because it ruined the dating experience. You're supposed to go out and spend time with the person you like, and it just ruins it. It's, you're sitting there trying to talk, trying to get to know somebody, especially when the first beginnings of dating somebody, and they're always on their phone. They're just sitting there on their phone. It's like, what, you just want me here to pay the bill? That's how I feel about that. Now, keep in mind, all this stuff is just my opinion. There's not much. Well, some of it's facts in my mind, but it's my opinion. This isn't a big group study or anything like that. It's just a Gen X old guy's opinion. If you don't like it, stay out of my yard. Also, the phones. You have no privacy. Let's say I'm doing something and I got my phone with me, and someone needs to call me, and I don't answer my phone because I'm working or I'm doing something important. They get mad today if you don't answer the phone right away or text them back within like 3 minutes. My wife doesn't do that, but I have been with people, and I have a couple of friends that are like that to this day. That bugs the shit out of me. I'm busy. I don't want to be bothered. I'll call you later. Back in the 80s and the 70s, we had the phone. If we weren't around, we weren't around. We'd call them back when we felt like it. It was no big deal. Cars. Cars have also been, it's nice to have technology make things easier for us, but when you're depending on that technology all the time and you don't know how to come out of it, if technology goes away for some reason, case in point, a stick shift car. Fewer and fewer people know how to drive a stick shift car. I learned how to drive a stick shift car when I was about 16, 17 years old. I talk to younger people. They don't have any idea how to buy a stick shift car. My daughter's boyfriend a few years ago, he bought a new car from the dealership right up the road from me. And it was a stick shift. He's never driven a stick shift at all. He got stuck leaving the lot. He calls me. He's like, "Can you help me?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." He did not know how to drive a stick shift car. And they let him leave the lot like that, which is fine. That's a lesson learned. So I taught him how to drive a stick that day, and he ended up taking it back 2 days later because he just didn't want to go through the hassle. I love having a stick shift car. It's better on gas mileage. It just keeps you something to do. It's just, I don't know. It's hard to explain why I prefer stick. I probably do a whole video on the cars that I've had and which were stick, which were automatic, but that's not what we're here to talk about. And the cars today they're more money to repair. I mean, back in the day, we had a problem with a change of brakes. We go do it. I still to this day change the brakes on my own car. I have 3 cars. I had 2 Subarus and a Honda, and I change the brakes on all 3 cars. Oil changes, stuff like that. I had to learn how to do it, but I do it myself. No one does it anymore. It's just easy to go to Walmart and have them mess it up, or pay an exorbitant amount of money to take it back to the dealership. And for some reason, people think they have to take the cars back to a dealership. No, fine. You know what? Find a small business garage. Give them your money because they need it more than the dealerships do. I guarantee it. Break time. The next thing I want to talk about is work ethic. 16-year-olds are going out getting their first job, and that's great. You turn 16, you're allowed to work, get your work papers. If you're in school, you go out and get a job. They're expecting to make like $18, $19, $20 an hour. No, they should start out at minimum wage. Now, the whole minimum wage crisis here in America is messed up too, and I think I touched on that last night when I did a fast food video. When I was 16, it was 1984, and minimum wage was $3.35 an hour. I know that sounds pathetic, doesn't it? But if you do the research, $3.35 an hour, $3.35 in 1984 is worth approximately $8.05 right now in 2024. Now that makes sense. However, minimum wage is still only $7.25, $7.35, something like that. So, that might need to be corrected. I'm okay with them bumping up minimum wage to $10, but when they do bump up the minimum wage, well, the prices are going to go up. And for some reason, if you watch my fast food video from last night, prices are ridiculous. And that's just fast food. My first job was in a grocery store, and then shortly after that, I started cooking. But the problem is now there's 16-year-olds that do work, and the last place I worked at, we had a couple 16-year-olds working there, and all they wanted to do, I'm specifically talking about Walmart, every time you look at them, they're on their phone. They're not doing work, they're on the phone. You're 16 years old. What can be that important that you have to be on the phone all the time? You're getting paid to work. Do your job. When I work, when I worked in the kitchen, my phone disappeared. I'd look at it when I took a break, and that was it. Somebody called me, I'd call them back. Text me, whatever. Text them back on my break. That's work ethic. I don't need to have my phone with me while I'm supposed to be doing important job duties. Same thing when I was at Walmart. My phone sat on a shelf. When I took a break, that's when I checked it. It's not that hard. People are going to have to work, or people are going to have to realize you have to work. Leave you alone. I even tell my wife, don't text me when I'm working because I won't answer you back. Or if you do text me, expect me to answer you later. The next thing that's making people lazy is the fast food industry. And up until recently, they started really, really hiking the prices. So like I said, check out my fast food video. I'll talk about that. But when I say fast food, I mean stuff like Grubhub and where they deliver the delivery services that bring the food to your house. They charge double. So if you're paying $25 for some food, you're probably paying another $20 to get it delivered, plus the tip. That's why they're broke all the time. Learn how to cook. Cooking is great. Cooking is a group project you can do with your family. If you're married, you and your wife together. Me and my wife, we cook stuff together all the time. And especially since the fast food prices have skyrocketed, like I said, I don't go to fast food places that often because I have been a career chef my whole life. My wife and I, we cook at home, and we save a ton of money. And you know what? The food's better. And it's not hard to learn how to cook simple things. Sure, treat yourself and have a date night once in a while. Go out to a restaurant. I'm not saying don't go to fast food places. But these fast food places is one of the reasons why people are broke all the time. You got somebody who's broke all the time eating fast food every single day. The money they spend on that fast food, they could have probably bought enough groceries to survive for 2 weeks if they cook it themselves. And then, stuff like Starbucks. I don't need an $8 cup of coffee. I get some Maxwell House out of my coffee maker in the morning. If I really want to make some fancy coffees, you can actually do that at home. Nobody wants to do it. They're too lazy. Oh, we'll just go to they call it Starbucks. I know people have to have Starbucks every single day. That's $8 for a cup of coffee is almost as much as a pack of cigarettes here in Pennsylvania. Well, I shouldn't be smoking either, but you get my point. The next thing that I want to talk about is education. From the time I went to school and the time these kids are going to school, I've experienced watching my daughter's studies. I have two daughters. They're going to be, one's going to be 30 here in July, and the other one's going to be 29 in October from my first marriage. And I raised them by myself. Their mother was out of the picture. But I paid close attention to their education, and they cut so many things out. They didn't teach them like how to write a check. They didn't teach them basic things you need to know in life. I mean, even home economics. They didn't even teach, like, we used to make chocolate chip cookies. They taught us how to make chocolate chip cookies in home ec, and all the boys had to take it. All the girls had to take it. We had to take a shop class. They didn't have to do any of that, and now they don't know how to do it. Well, my kids know how to do it because I taught them. And it is the parents' responsibility to teach your kids too. A lot of parents don't want to take the time to teach their kids stuff, or maybe the kids just don't want to listen. But I'm sorry, if you have kids, you make them listen. You stop them. You say, "No, we're doing this today. Let me show you how to do this. Let me show you how to change a tire. Let me show you how to check your oil in your car. Let me show you things you're going to need in everyday life. Let me show you how to sew this button on so you don't have to go out and spend $50 on another jacket just because the button's off of it." And the younger people, they refer to Google. They have I call it a Google education, or even a YouTube education, where they go on, you go Google or YouTube, and they believe everything that they read and everything that they see. What if the person you're reading about on Wikipedia, which anybody can put stuff on Wikipedia in case you didn't know that, or you're looking at Google, or you're watching some moron like me do a YouTube video, it doesn't know what the hell he's talking about, and you're sitting there, you're taking that for facts. I mean, this is where those memes come from with, make sure you put the winter air in your tires. When summer's over, you got to drain your air and fill it back up with winter air. And, just all and some people take those seriously, and that's what's messed up. That's one of the mild ones. Oh, I could go on and on and on about that, but then somebody's probably going to just skip through the video and just hear the one part where I said, make sure you change your air out and put your winter air in, and they'll end up doing it. But I feel the education system as a whole has just been dumbed down. I don't know if they're lowering the standards for people. Don't lower the standards. Make the kids work harder. Because when you're growing up, that's when you're learning. And you learn your stuff through your teen years into your 20s. You're still learning, obviously, after that. But the most education you're going to get is in your teen years. They're giving them a pass. I have ADHD. Okay, well, we'll work around that. I have no problem working around that. Now it's like, I have anxiety, I have depression, and half the people are lying about it. Yes, I personally do suffer from depression and anxiety. I really do. But you know what? I work through it. And I've had a lot of good jobs in my life. I've been a career chef for 40 years, and I've learned a lot of other stuff. I turned it around and made it a positive. Case in point, not only was I a career chef, I was an optician for 5 years. And what an optician does is an optician is the one that makes glasses. I've got all kinds of glasses laying around here from whenever I was doing that because I got a discount. So I must have about 10 pairs of glasses. That's why sometimes in these videos you'll see I have different glasses on. I have my favorites. The ones I'm wearing right now are my favorites. But I have my shop glasses, which I've done videos in that too. But it's way off topic. So, and like they're cutting all the stuff that you need, life lessons. I personally, I like history. I was really into history. So I studied history. And then the history that my daughter was being taught was basically the Cliff's Notes. It wasn't, I don't want to get into anything political, but it wasn't the history I was taught. It was just like skimming over really super important parts of life. Now, history is our best teacher. We study history so we don't make the same mistake twice. And they have not taught our children certain parts of history. Other parts of history, they've glorified it to the point where it's actually caused turmoil in our country. People need to realize that's not the only history of the United States, or the world for that matter. Like I said, I'm trying not to be political. I'm pretty sure you guys can figure out where I'm coming from, though. I mean, they don't even teach cursive in schools anymore. Cursives, handwriting. I still feel it's something that people should know. It's something simple. It's just a skill that you should probably learn. You got to do your signature. Your signature's in cursive. No one's going to sit there and print I'm not going to sit there and print Bruce Jennings on when I sign a check or a contract or, any kind of legal document. You use cursive. Teach them cursive. It doesn't take that long. Now I want to talk about pretty much the main chunk of this video in my mind. Let's see where it goes. Okay, one more section of why people are lazy. And then I'm going to get into why people are rude. And I think you're going to appreciate that a little more than the laziness, because I just sound like an old man going off. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. Hacks. TikTok hacks. Little people jumping on TikTok and saying, oh, here's a better way to do this, and this, you never thought about doing it this way, and this is the way this tool is actually supposed to be used. And they're all full of shit. Specifically, I watched a video the other day where this tween was cooking a grilled cheese in a toaster. Turned the toaster sideways, shoved the grilled cheese in there and cooked. Oh, this is so good. This is so good. Yeah, it's great until the cheese melts down onto the thing, catches on fire. They're doing it with steaks. They got people reheating pizza, making pizza in a toaster. Not a toaster oven, an actual sliced toaster. They turn it on the side, they shove stuff in it, and they're like, oh, this is so good, this is so good. Now, come on, I'm a career chef. You don't think I'm gonna pick that out and think how stupid it is? Sure, guess what's gonna happen if you do that? It'll cook it if you're lucky. It's gonna taste like dirt because all the juices are gonna come out of the steak, for one thing. And then guess what's gonna happen? Your toaster's gonna catch on fire. It's inevitable. It'll catch on fire. The cheese and the grilled cheese catch on fire. Now your toaster's burning up. If you got a plastic toaster, you're gonna get all those plastic fumes in your food. And I think these people are dumb enough to eat it. And they'll still say, oh, it's so good, making their little TikTok videos. Knock it the hell off. Buy a pan. Buy a hot plate. There you go. Buy a hot plate and a pan. You're good to go. But that just... So other people see that and they think, oh, well, we could do it too. And they do it. I mean, remember the Tide Pod Challenge? Jesus, Murphy. That just makes them all stupid is what it does. And they think it's cool. In my life, I've never had the urge to take a Tide Pod and stick it in my mouth and eat it. What's wrong with people? But we're supposed to just sit there and say, oh, no, that's okay. That's funny. Oh, fads, traditions, boys will be boys, whatever saying they want to use to cover it up. No, it's bullshit, and they need to stop acting like that. And it's the parents' job to swat them upside the head and say, enough. Grow up. Don't be stupid. The last topic I want to talk about, and I said I was going to talk about rude people. Neighborhood respect. Now, what does that mean? What's it mean to me? When we were growing up in the 70s and the 80s, we had neighbors. I have neighbors now. 70s and 80s, neighbors were different than they are now. My neighbors, I have good neighbors. They're not bad. But 70s and 80s, growing up in a little tiny town called Fort Allen. It's right near Greensburg, Pennsylvania. It's okay, I'm not doxing myself because I don't live there. I don't give a shit if you know where I live anyway. All our neighbors, we were all friends. If one person was barbecuing, another guy come over with a bag of hamburgers, say, hey, let's have some fun. We'd throw it on the grill, whatever. We switched off all the time. My dad would be out working on the car. Next thing you know, Marty next door, he comes over with a beer, bullshits to my dad for a couple hours, helps him out with the car, vice versa. He's out working his drive. My dad go over there. He'd take me with him. Neighbor across the street, sitting out in the driveway having a couple beers. His name was Will. Well, I couldn't drink back then, but my dad would go over there and have a beer with him, chit-chat for a while. And the guy on the other side, his last name was Smith, I'm not even making that up. Well, he kind of had a little turmoil with that guy, but we ended up being cool. Because, I used to beat up his kids, but that's a whole other thing. But the neighbors all stuck together. If somebody passed away on the street, like let's say, when my grandmother died, she didn't live with us, but when my grandmother died, people brought over covered dishes and stuff like that for the wake because it's tradition to have a wake, and you gotta need food. Anything they could do to help. They don't do that nowadays. My mom died in February. I put it on Facebook. I know the neighbors knew because some of them were on my Facebook. And like I said, these are good people, but they're all younger than me too, which is understandable. But they were never taught that. They were never taught, oh, like Claude's father died. Let's give him a little gift basket, some munchies and stuff for the wake, or you know, there's nobody on my street named Claude. I made that up because I don't want any of my neighbors to get mad at me for saying this, because I do like my neighbors. All I'm saying is they were never taught the ways we were in Gen X. Am I wrong? Leave it in the comments. I mean, I really would like to know. But yeah, I mean, back in the day, if someone's out there working on their car, they need some help. Always a neighbor come by, hey, you need some help, or my dad was he pulled his hamstring, and he couldn't cut the grass, and next thing you know, Marty, the guy I just mentioned, he driving right across cutting the grass, didn't even ask, just did it, because he knew my dad couldn't get around, and I was too young at the time to do it, because like I said, my parents had me when they were older. Yeah, he'd come over with his riding mower and cut the grass. I actually did the trimming for that. But, that's the kind of things our neighbors did. Now, I mean, when we first moved into this house about 13 years ago, we weren't even living here for 2 weeks, and I got a note on the door from one of the neighbors. Never did find out which neighbor did it. Very nice. Be a good neighbor and make sure you take your garbage cans in as soon as the garbage man picks them up. Well, my wife and I at the time both were working 7 to 3, so we'd get up, we'd go to work. Garbage hasn't been picked up yet. She'd get home around 3:30. I get home around 5, and we weren't there to put the garbage cans in, and they're just sitting at the end of our driveway. It's not like they were out in the street. No, be a good neighbor. It makes the neighborhood look bad. I'm sorry, fire truck you. Seriously, fire truck you. I never did find out who put that note on the door, but it wasn't the first note we ever got. I got another note from, and I know who sent me this one. We call her the neighborhood Karen. She said that my weeds on this, I call it Heart Attack Hill. It's an area I can't cut. My ankles are bad and it's really steep. It gets overgrown with weeds. So I cut it about usually twice a summer. And it does get a little overgrown, but the only one that goes in there is the dogs. I get a note on there saying that my weeds are encroaching in her yard. Meanwhile, the woods on the one side of my property are her woods, and her weeds are coming out of the woods. And over the past 14 years, I've lost 6 feet of my property because the weeds and the underbrush had just come out into my property. Am I going to cry about it? No. It's not a big deal. If we had a problem back in the 80s, my dad had a problem with the one neighbor. My dad did have a problem with the one neighbor. He built a shed. Next door neighbor built a shed, and it was a little too close. It was actually over the property line. And my dad went to him and talked to him and said, hey, look, this is it's over the property line. They got an argument for about 10 minutes, and then my dad ended up being right. And guess what? They moved the shed, and they got over it. Not a big deal. There was face-to-face contact. Now it's just notes, and somebody called the borough on the dude across the street because he had weeds on the side of his property on the alleyway. Instead of knocking on the door saying, hey, can you do something about these weeds? Do you need some help? Nope, they call the borough. Next thing, the borough shows up. Whatever happened to saying, hey, I kind of have a problem with these weeds. Can you take care of them, or do you need some tools? I even offered him a weed whacker and a hedge clipper. I said, if you want to borrow my tools, you can. That's just the kind of person I am. And when I did offer them the tools, they looked at me like, they're nice people, but they're not used to that. So whenever I offered them the tools, they looked at me like I was crazy. What, people don't help each other out anymore? I don't know. Maybe I just live in the land of self-entitled boomers. Maybe that's it. But these people I'm talking about, not all of them are boomers. So I just wonder about humanity anymore. It just seems to have been so much nicer back in the 80s, the way people treated each other. Even the customers that come in, because I've been in food service my whole life, the customers that come into food service were a lot nicer. Now everybody wants to pick a fight. Everybody wants something free. Everybody wants to disrespect the employees. Maybe that's why the younger people don't want to work in restaurants anymore, at least for the money they're paying. That's about all I have tonight. It was just on my mind. I really want to play with this software, so if you notice it looks a little more fancy than usual, it's because I'm using a new software. Actually, I'll tell you what the software is. It's Wondershare Filmora. Now, I've always used Wondershare Filmora to do my other videos up until now. I was using version 8, and I've had that for a while. Well, I finally sprung and got version 13, and it's got a lot of cool stuff on it. So we're me give it a try and see if we can, I don't know, make things look a little better, you know, amp it up a little bit. Anyway, if you have anything to say, leave it in the comments, and gladly have a nice discussion with you. Bye.
It's just Bruce, he don't bite. Hello.